Now we'll get into the next component of the define phase, which is called the milestones. Milestones are the reference point marking major events in a project. It is a high-level project plan with the dates. It typically dates of completing the DMAIC phase. So before the beginning of this define phase, I talked about that there is a DMAC methodology that we are going to talk about. So in the milestone, we should mention the start and the end date of each and every phases here in the milestones. It should be aggressive but realistic. Okay, so that is the milestone in the define phase of the charter. Now let's get into the army model. So as you all know that there is a tool which is used in the define phase. So the army model that we're going to talk about. So army model is also one of the important uh, change acceleration program tools, which is very important uh, to be part of any Six Sigma project. Wherein the army is an abbreviation with wherein A stand for approver, R stand for resource, M stand for member, and I stand for interested. It's a tool which is used by the project leaders to identify the stakeholders, to identify the project team members. Okay. So wherein A stands for approver or approval, the person who is going to give us an approval which is required for running a project successfully. Resource is a part of the project team member, one whose expertise and skills may be needed on an ad hoc basis. Okay. He's not a full-time resource, but he's the one who's required at some point in time. So for example, people from IT technology, they're not utilized at each and every point in time. They're utilized only and only during the improve phase of the Six Sigma. The next is member, the member of the team with the authorities and the boundaries of the charter, the person who is from different cross-function teams, who are responsible to support the project team, the project leader, to ensure that the problem is captured properly and it is solved. So he is a person who is remain in the project from define till the control, and the interested party who will need to be keep informed in the finance. So for example, the CEO of the organization or the CEO of the organization who is not the approver because he has already assigned a responsibility one level below for him to give certain approvals, and the CEO is at the top. You would just need to be keep informed. Anything which cannot be done by the approver, then in that case, the interested party comes into. Now we're going to talk about the process mapping. It is one of the important tools which is part of the define phase that which needs to be there. What is process mapping? Sequence of activities arranged in order of their occurrence. That is called the process mapping. What are the benefits of process mapping? Process mapping can reveal unnecessary and complex steps in a process. This makes it possible to simplify and troubleshoot. It can compare actual processes against the ideal. Okay, these are some of the shapes of a typical process map that you can see. Now I am just going to share a snapshot of how the army tool looks like. Okay, so you see that it is mentioned here what is the abbreviation of army which we just talked about, and these are the key stakeholders during the projects. We have the project sponsor, we have the project champion, we have the project leader, the team member, which is the cross-function team, and the quality mentor. And as you can see that army is being captured from define till control here. Okay, it clearly talks about that which particular member of the team, a stakeholder of the team, is being utilized at each point in time. So you see that the quality mentor is a resource, okay, because he or she is the person who helps the team to help with the analysis, the different tools and techniques to complete the analysis. Okay, team members are being there everywhere. Okay, and you see the project sponsor, who is just an interested party. Let's talk about who is the project sponsor and who is the project champion. Let's understand in detail. Okay, project sponsor is the person who's at the top, who's giving instructions, and whose scorecard or goal sheet is getting impacted because of a particular metric not performing at a certain level. Project champion is the person who is the head of the department, like the marketing department or the HR department or the finance department or the operations head. They're the ones who is responsible to remove the roadblock during the project journey, and they also participate in all the project reviews wherein they give their directions, they give their recommendation inputs to ensure that the project moves at a steady pace with better results. Project leader is the one who's responsible for each and everything, for taking certain approvals, for aligning the team, to ensure that the reviews are happening, the meetings are being conducted, the discussions are happening, to ensure that everybody working at the same time, and to ensure that we meet the business goals also. Next is the team members or the cross-function team. Team members and cross-function teams are from different departments, because when we do a Six Sigma project, we're not only limited to one certain team or department. There are multiple departments which are involved who help to achieve a desired result. So they are the ones who's responsible to do data collection, who's responsible to come up with these improvement solutions, who's responsible to come up with what are the different constraints, challenges, walkthroughs in the respective process. Then there's a quality mentor, which I just talked about. He or she is a person who helps the team to complete the analysis, who helps the team to come up with the solutions, who ensure, who validates that the tools and techniques which are used to capture the solutions, the causes are done in a proper way. And there is also a change management, which plays a very, very important role. That is something which also being driven by the quality mentor. Now we are going into the process mapping, which we just covered. Okay, this is a typically story. What really happens is, this is what you think it is. It is being. Okay, you can see a process like this. Okay, what it really is. So this is what I think, because I haven't documented any process map. When I start documented, okay, this is it typically it is what it should be, because it's a very simple process now with simple steps. It is not complex. And what it could, there is still an opportunity that wherein we can reduce the process steps, eliminate the unnecessary step, and make it a very simple, short process to ensure that the people, the processes are worked in a proper way, in a more structured opportunity way. Okay, now we're going to talk about certain topics within the process mapping, which is called VA versus BVA and versus NVA. What is VA? VA stands for value added work. Any activity that adds value from a customer perspective is done right the first time and transform the data or information is the value added work. Okay, business value added work. Any activity that adds no value from a customer perspective but is required to operate the business based on the current business setup operating model. For example, when we conduct any refresher trainings, when we conduct any workshop, when we conduct any motivational sessions, when we conduct any leadership forum, any reviews happening, this is not a value added, neither it's a non-value added, it's a business value. Value added is something which is only from a customer perspective, which is wherein the customer time and value is being captured. So for example, while doing production, while working on the customer services, while talking to the customer, while working on the customer request, all that is value added. Anything which is done at the back end, that's not a value added for the customer, although it's a business value added because it is required. Now, what is non-value added? Any activity does not add value from customers and business perspective. Neither it's a value added nor it's a business value added. That's called non-value added. So if you look in this pie, the majority of the stuff, which is 50% of the stuff, is a non-value. This is typically in most of the processes. So if we talk about the industry, if I look at any process, I would see that there are 50% non-value added opportunity. Non-value added opportunities could be a lot of handoffs, a lot of waiting time, a lot of inventories, a lot of defects, a lot of overproduction, overprocessing, etc., etc. And that is something which needs to be moved. It's only 25% approximately which is value added, which is being utilized. and there is 50%, which is, so 50% is a non-value added, okay, 10% is the, or maybe 20% is the value added, okay, and 30% is a business value added. We should always strive for improving the non-value added one. What is the goal? As I told about, eliminate waste and right size the amount of time required for business value added stuff. So we should always focus on improving the non-value added. Now there's an important tool which is called the Cipher. Okay, this is something which is a very important tool of a defined phase. It's an again abbreviation, wherein it's the S stand for supplier, I stand for input, P stand for process, O stand for output, and C stand for customer. Okay, Cipher could also be referred as COPIS, because if I just reverse the order, COPIC. Okay, so I can say customer, output, process, input, and supply. Let's understand what is Cipher. When you're planning to start a Six Sigma project, it is very important that you get the high level overview understanding of the scope of the process. It helps in making sure that each and everyone, whosoever is involved in the project, has the same understanding of the project. So in a typical project, when we introduce a lot of cross-functional team members to resolve a problem, because their value chain is also impacted in that particular process, and therefore each and every person is not very sure about that what is a high level flow of the process. So Cipher is being prepared to identify the high level scope of the process, so that each and every person in the project, along with the stakeholder, is on the same. It gives a helicopter view of the process to the stakeholder. Okay, therefore it is very important to include maximum of 5 to 6 steps in a process. Even though if your process is very complex, there are different scenarios, situation comes in place, it is only and only 5 and 6 steps which you should always include in the cycle or the COPIS also. Okay, so let's understand the roles and responsibilities of the Cipher. So customer, whoever receive the output of a process, it can be internal and external. Output, the material or data that result from the operation of a process. We all know what is output. Process, which is the high level process, the activities you must perform to satisfy your customer requirement. Input, the material or data that a process does something to do or with. And supplier, whomever provides the input to your process. This is typically a project charter sample, and which you can look at from left to the right. Okay, we have already covered all of them except the project scope, okay, which we will just cover now. Business case, we talked about. Just to reiterate, 3 questions that you need to keep in mind while designing a business case. First question, what is the background of the process? What is the background of the process? Just in 2 or 3 lines. Second question is, what is the need of doing this project? Third question is, what are the consequences of not doing this project now? Okay. Goal statement, we already talked about. It should have a SMART approach, wherein the S stand for specific, M stand for measurable, A stand for attainable, R stand for realistic or relevant, and T stand for time. Opportunity statement or problem statement should have 4W1H, and we have segregated into impact of the pain and the business impact. Although you can make it as 4W1H, or you can define it as a verbiage also. Okay, this is a milestone that we talked about, project plan. Okay, wherein we should mention the start and the end date of define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Typically, the defined phase of the Six Sigma should be for 2 weeks. Measure would be for 2 weeks at least. Analyze should be for 2 to 3 weeks. Improve should be for 4 to 6 weeks, depending upon the improvement solution that you're coming up with. And control should be for at least 2 months. Okay, that's how we should define the start and the end date of the Six Sigma project scope, which we did not cover, which I'm covering here. What is the in scope and what is the out scope? Which means what are the team, department, zones which we are considering for this project. So, for example, if I'm doing a project uh, at a state level, okay, if I'm doing a state level only, which means that there are only 5 or 6 states or cities or zones which are going to impact. So I will mention those things as in scope. And out of scopes are the zones or teams or department which are not part of this. So it is very, very clearly uh, it is very, very important to clearly document that what is the in scope of the project and what is the out of scope. So basically it is something, what are the things that departments, teams that we are going to include and which we are not going to include. So that tomorrow at the end of the day, we say that it's not done at a global level. It is done for a particular geographical boundaries for different departments. Okay. Project team, which we just talked about. You remember we talked about army. So sponsor is a person who's head, the champion who is responsible for removing the roadblocks during the project journey. The master black belt, which is MBB, who is the quality, one level above the quality, who is responsible for reviewing whether the quality tools and technique which are being performed by the quality mentor are done in a proper way or not. Then you know who's a project leader, who's responsible for each and everything. Then the quality mentor is the one who is responsible for applying different tools and techniques. And there are different cross-functional team members who is going to participate in the project journey altogether. Okay, so this is something which should be presented to the stakeholder uh, in the define phase. Okay, so in the define phase, as when we just begin, we talked about certain things. There are 3 things, 4 things that which are very, very important. First, it should have a proper project charter. You can see the template. You can use this template to draw a project charter. Second, you should have the roles and responsibility of each and every team member, which you can use as an army. Third is the process map, which clearly articulates what is the value added, what is the non-value added, what is the business value added. And then there is a Cipher, which is the high-level process map, which clearly articulates that what is that high-level step of a process, wherein the S stand for supplier, I stand for input, P stand for process, O stand for output, and S stand for and C stand for customer. Okay, so we have completed successfully the defined phase of the Six Sigma, and now we are going to go ahead with the measure phase of the Six